The judiciary is independent. There's a very good provision recommending the appointment of the ombudsman to handle the issues of the judiciary. I think that is good. However, I strongly believe that in order to enhance the independence of the judiciary, that appointment should be made by the Chief Justice.
We must be careful. We must be careful about the independence of institutions. We are coming from a history where judges received telephone calls, where courts were held at night. We do not want to go there.
Welcome back. Of course, Deputy President William Ruto and former Vice President Musalia Mudavadi speaking to the issue of the appointment of the judiciary ombudsperson. And Dr. Chris Wamalwa, we're still with Honorable Gladys Boss and Senator Isaac Mora. But Honorable Wamalwa, so many things being raised against this report. You hear one Honorable Boss raising questions of what I would call legitimacy and the methodology that has been used in coming up with this report. With all these concerns, what do you think needs to happen? Because it has taken us, since March 9th, 2018 until now, it's more than 2 years. It has taken us more than 2 years to have such reports ready, but there are still contentious issues in how we need to move forward from here.
On the way forward, I request His Excellency the President to appoint a new technical committee that will look into some of the new submissions that are coming over. Remember, this committee was extended, and there's some level of bias. For instance, some of us gave our submissions that the Senate should be an upper house. Instead, the Senate has been actually downgraded. So what the President needs to do to avoid issues of bias, because this committee was extended, let him appoint a new committee, maybe of 5 people or so, maybe from the LSK, from academia, from the church, and we can also have from CSOs, a slim team that will be able to fine-tune this output from this committee, so that they can be able to have inputs to improve on this document. And what my colleagues had said about the issues of inclusivity, actually, because we are trying to cure inclusivity to avoid these things of the winner takes it all. But when you look at the operationalization of this inclusivity, it's actually, it's not the way, it's the winner takes everything. Because really, from the way it has been demonstrated, if Jubilee government was in place at the moment, really what the Deputy President said, it is true. We are going to have Amos Kimunya as the Prime Minister and the other 2 deputies. So unless we put a framework in place and say that the Prime Minister should be able to be the leader of the second loser, number 1 and number 2. So you'll be including number 2. Because in this case, we are not including number 2.
Already, Honorable Wamalwa, there's the provision that the Prime Minister will come from the party with majority of members in the National Assembly. So it's possible that you can have a minority president.
Absolutely, like what happened during the Nusumukate, where ODM had a majority of the MPs. So we need to see how we can be able to cure this, because the problem was about the issue of the winner takes it all. But how do we do the delegate balance so that after the elections, this position of Prime Minister should not be appointed by the President. In fact, we are making an imperial President. He's appointing the Prime Minister, the deputies, and he can be able to sack them. Even in the National Accord, President Mwai Kibaki did not have powers to sack Raila Amolo Odinga. We are supposed to have a hybrid. But to me, this is looking like it's a more of a presidential aspect.
But so when you read the report, you will see that it's already defined who the Prime Minister is supposed to be. It is a person who has majority of the members in the House, the leader of the majority of the members in the House, and Parliament can vote to approve him or not. And if Parliament declines to pass him, then there's an opportunity for the majority members to pick one. And if he does not pass, then the President can eventually now have to pick the Prime Minister without requiring the Parliament to approve it.
But the moment that there's a clause which says that will be appointed by the President and be sacked by the President, we didn't want a situation whereby you have a Prime Minister who can be sacked or who can be fired or hired by the President. So that is the element we want to cure. It is not going down very well with the people. We want a Prime Minister at least who have some reasonable powers. But when you look at this issue of inclusivity, it's not been handled very well. And that's why we need this committee. The President needs to come out and say, now, in view of what has come out, I've appointed this committee. We are giving it a time frame of 1 month or so that this committee comes in without bias, so that he can be able to fine-tune people's inputs. And the President himself said it, that this is not casting a stone. that people can be able to come and improve it. Moses Wetangula said it. Don't say reject, improve. So what suggestions are we going to give so that the interests of inclusivity can be able to handle? When you look at IBC, for instance, the proposals that they should be able to vet the commissioners, it's ridiculous. These commissions under Article 251, it has highlighted clearly how a commissioner can be removed. Somebody can be able to do a petition to Parliament, and once that petition comes, you look at the merit, the president has to put a tribunal. And once the tribunal has been put in place and it finds that the commissioner have issues, then he'll be dismissed. So the issue of introducing that a new vetting of the IBC, it is very unconstitutional, it's discriminatory, it should not be allowed. What the president needs to do.
Okay. We'll come back to the question of IBC. Let's just be procedural. I'm just wondering, Senator Senator Mwaura, when you look at that the president shall appoint the prime minister, isn't it just a procedural issue? Because even the chief justice is recruited by the Judicial Service Commission, but the formal appointment is done by the president. Is there a problem in that?
Yeah, I think, Sam, let us raise the real issues. You owe allegiance to your appointing authority. There is no way you can go against your appointing authority. Somebody who has given you a job. Who will go against somebody who has been given a... So the independence of the judiciary is highly compromised. Look at even the composition of the JSC itself. You have somebody who is in all the three arms of government called the Attorney General. He sits in the JSC. He sits in cabinet as a full minister. If you look at the new proposals of BBI, he will also be a member of parliament. You see, where is the separation of powers? When you have a president appointing the ombudsman, and also the president is the same one who appoints judges, then he can discipline, to remove a judge, you require a tribunal, and that has been happening with the, you remember, there's a Justice Tunoi and all of that. What I want to say is that, Sam, honestly, I want to agree with Dr. Chris Wamalo, and by the way, you call him senator, maybe he's an ex-senator, although this is a downgraded house. In fact, yes, you know, the Senate is now the lower house, it's downgraded, it has no value, and it's a dumping ground for women. And also, people with disabilities have been removed in the Senate, in the National Assembly. It's impossible to be there, and county assemblies. I need to emphasize on that because these are the losses that we are seeing. So you cannot have a situation where you have even, the president is too powerful. Let's say the truth. Yeah. And people fought for this constitution to bring change. We never wanted somebody who is know-it-all. You remember the days of Mkulima #1, Mwalimu #1. We are not going back to that. What we want to have is a situation where you have a supervisor of government. Right now, for all intents and purposes, Fred Matiang'i is the prime minister of this republic, just like Mudhaura was at some point. So we want to have a situation where we clothe these with dignity. I agree with you on one point. And by the way, I don't know why you are saying out of those 5 positions, why one cannot be a person with disability. The leader of the prime minister, it is actually possible that the prime minister may come from the party, not that which has sponsored the president. Because that is what happened in 2007. Raila Odinga was not from PNU, he was from ODM, and he had the highest number. But then the risk is that the president can actually, look at how it is drafted. Within 7 days, 50% should vote for you, okay? If that does not happen, the president can actually appoint without recourse to parliament. The same president can sack,
that is the third route. Senator Mwaura, that is the third route.
Correct, but it leads to the, you can create a stalemate where there is nobody who really emerges. Please remember the power of the state. You can create a stalemate so that you end up with the third route as somebody who is just a puppet who you can fight. And even the third route is saying any person from the coalition of the majority. So we need to tie those loose ends. Let us not go for the overkill. If we want inclusivity, I know there is a problem of having one set of power plus 2 centers of power, whatever. But share it. I know, graduate it. There's a way you can neatly have a prime minister who also respects, that the president is a real CEO, but without necessarily making them so vulnerable that they can only be sycophants. You get the point? That is what Kenyans are looking for. So, yes, I agree with those who are saying, let us not throw the baby with the bathwater. We, people with disabilities, are actually going to present our own memorandum because we are very angry at this BBI thing. And I hope others can do so. And I agree with Dr. Wamalo. Let's have another team. Adams, although they have done their bid, let's have another team of 5 or 7. They look and they now refine the draft. Because, by the way, BBI is not the whole report. Those are stories. All these other ones are stories. The real BBI is from page 57 to 82. This is the constitutional amendment bill. Otherwise, when you tell people with disabilities that their gain is to have a person with disabilities act, repealed.
Okay.
I'm already doing it in the Senate, Sam. In fact, yesterday, people have been told to submit memorandum. So what are you telling people? Yet you are also removing the same people who are advancing their rights in Parliament. When we talk about a youth...
Senator, let's take a look at those proposals that you're referring to, the changes proposed on the gender rule as well as the special interest groups and the persons with disability. And first is that out of the 360 elected MPs, there's that proposal to abolish the 47 women representative positions, to abolish the 12 nominated MPs positions, and therefore some constituencies will have to elect multiple members of parliament. Then something else is that what is proposed to happen is that the persons with disability or the special interest seats will be abolished, and the responsibility to have compliance with the constitutional provision on persons with disability that 5% of elective positions and appointed positions have to go to the person with disability now will lie with the political parties as well as the IEBC. So political parties, as they do their nominations, they have to ensure that at least 5% persons with disabilities and at least a third, as the situation is in the country, women. So let me begin with you, Honorable Boss. So when you look at this, does it claw back on the gains made in championing for the girl child or the women in elective positions? And do you think it's possible that once you push the responsibility to political parties, we can actually have at least a third of either gender represented in the houses?
Just before I comment on that, I think I'll be waiting for an apology from Senator Mwaura, who has always been my champion for human rights and equality, that he can make such a derogatory statement as saying that Senate will be a dancing ground for women. Why is it not a dancing ground for men?
No.
Men are going to also be at the Senate. So I think, Senator Mwaura, I've never heard you say that, and I'm a little disappointed. I'm heartbroken. I hope you'll apologize to me on a sidebar.
No, sorry. I said dumping, not dancing. Dumping.
Okay, even then, why for women?
That's because I mean the Senate has been lowered, and that you take the women rep and you make her a senator even without a gap. So I'm with you. Please kindly, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought you said dancing ground. I was horrified.
No.
So now that we have peace, Honorable Boss, now how do you respond on the possibility of through political parties achieving the gender role?
Yes, but there's also one other item that had been mentioned. I didn't get an opportunity to respond on. When we talk about inclusivity, we have looked at it in a very simplistic manner. Inclusivity doesn't mean having two deputy prime ministers, a prime minister, and a president. That is not inclusivity. It's a very simplistic way of looking at it. When we talk about inclusivity, we should be saying that when we have people appointed, then it should be, if the president comes from one community, the deputy should be from a different one, the prime minister from another different one, and the deputy prime minister from even a different one, the head of the army, the attorney general, the IG, all of them should be from different communities, because you are not going to satisfy and say you have inclusivity when you only have 4 communities represented out of 42 communities that exist in Kenya. So that's a simplistic way, and so I think BBI should stop pretending that they're dealing with inclusivity. They are not. When we talk about the issue of more women, moving the women representatives to the Senate in order to meet the 1/3 gender rule, that is not even balancing the gender rule or any balancing in any language whatsoever. Because remember that as currently constituted, the National Assembly deals with legislation and oversight. Are you saying that when you move all the women to the Senate, and then you have an insignificant number of women at the National Assembly, that is going to mean that women cannot leverage on legislative making processes or leverage on issues of oversight, which is exactly what touches on women. So that is going to be underrepresentation. We must spread them out. We must have a significant number or acceptable number of women as PSs, as cabinet secretaries, as state corporation chiefs, as state corporation directors, as chairpersons of state corporations, as CASs, and across the entire state institutions.
And
so
therefore,
you can't
therefore the question,
say we have met the gender rule because we have put women in one corner.
And therefore the question,
so
Honorable Boss,
actually,
because
we are losing.
Because out of 360 positions in the National Assembly that are being proposed, there is that requirement that, let's say the Jubilee Party that you belong to, if they are going to have candidates for election in Parliament or in the National Assembly, then at least 120 of them must be women. ODM the same, Ford Kenya the same. Is it a possibility that through that route we'll be in a position to achieve those people that have been elected through universal suffrage can be women?
You see, as the decision, Kenyans already made the decision that at least no more than 2/3 of one gender shall be any elective or appointive position. That decision was already made by Kenyans when they passed the 2010 Constitution. What we should be asking ourselves is the formula to achieve it. And that is what the debate on the 2/3 gender rule has been throughout all this time. So we've been trying to find a formula. Using the Political Parties Act, the IEBC Act, using the appointment position process and so on, all those are formulas. So because those formulas exist, we should be interrogating as Kenyan as formulas. But unfortunately, this formula that has been presented to us under the BBI process was drafted in a corner in an office somewhere and now given to us. We have not had an opportunity to interrogate it or for us to test it, for other Kenyans to say, okay, maybe there's a better formula or let's amend the formula. Maybe we are going to do it now. But that formula has just been dumped on us. As we were told that this document is like a malaria tablet, which we must swallow no matter how bitter and whether we like it or not. That is how it was presented to us. So, and that is why it is important that legislative making process must emanate from the bottom and begin to work its way to the legislature for interrogation to ensure that it's a true representation of what members of the public actually wanted.
Okay, all
and
right.
that has not been able to happen.
And as you
I think something else, Sam, which we should not forget. I heard that in Bomas that they were saying one of the things they are suggesting is to have a restorative justice legislation. Remember, in 2 State of the Nation addresses by Uhuru Kenyatta, he has pledged that we will implement the TJRC report by ensuring that we have restorative justice and that we deal with historical injustices. And he even made sure that there was money budgeted for that purpose. I, myself, managed to push the reparations bill in Parliament to give effect to restorative justice. It was ignored by the National Treasury. So some of the things that are being recommended by BBI are already working its way. It's like Senator Mwaura talks about his bill, which he already is pushing, then BBI is even going behind. If they had done their homework, they should have said, let us make sure that there is already existing legislation being pushed by Senator Mwaura in Senate. There is something being pushed by myself in the National Assembly, and work on that. Build on the gains. Okay. Because when you are building something, you don't, like for example, if you want to plant trees, you don't go and cut everything in the forest and then start planting trees. You add more trees. So here we cannot destroy what we already have and rebuild again.
All right.
I think that is only the action of a foolish person.
Okay, Honorable Boss, I hear you and we hear you. I want us to listen to what the Deputy President said yesterday about that conversation around gender. Then we take a break, and when you come back, we'll be talking about what must happen in the coming days out of all those contestations that have been raised about the persons with disability, about gender issues, about IBC appointment, the Prime Minister, as well as the Judiciary Ombudsperson. Now, what should happen in the next phase of pursuing this BBI?
And the participation of women in our governance doesn't make us weaker, it makes us stronger. It doesn't make us lesser, it makes us greater. If we are saying in the proposal that women now go to the Senate, and you are saying that when women go to the Senate, they are going to a Senate which has been downgraded, which has no responsibility on matters of resource allocation. Are you enhancing the participation of women, or are you downgrading the participation of women? I mean, we are having a frank and honest conversation, good people. and it's good for us to listen to one another. So if we are saying women who today are sitting in the National Assembly, where resources are being discussed, if we take them from the forum where resources are being discussed and take them to a downgraded Senate, we are making the participation of women nominal. The participation of women should be substantive, in my respectful submission.